Fine. Decisions. Are you finding it hard to make up your mind these days? You might be dealing with decision fatigue. Yeah, it's a thing. From the moment we wake up, even before we put on our makeup, we're met with an incessant stream of choices, and it's making us very tired. Decision fatigue is something you've probably experienced, especially during the pandemic, and it's adding a new layer of complexity to the everyday decisions we face. So Natasha Sharma is here. She's going to help us. She's going to break it down for us and help us cope with it a bit better. Natasha, welcome back to Cityline. Let's talk about decisions. We can't avoid them, no matter how hard we try. You have broken them down on the basis of importance.
Yes. So, it's been said that we make approximately 35,000 decisions a day, which seems like a lot. This could be more or less depending on the day, but the vast majority of these are unbeknownst to us. We're talking like real autopilot stuff, which is the first type, breathing, even small things like brushing your teeth, just waking up and rising out of bed, even breathing. And then there's the second type, which is more moderate decisions like, what do I want to have for lunch today? Or should I drive or should I Uber? Or, like smaller things that require a little bit more mental effort. And then, of course, there's these larger decisions that happen a lot more infrequently, but, matters like, should I stay in this relationship or not? Should I stay in this job or not? Do I want to move or not? So those are sort of loosely the three types of decisions. Most of the ones that we're making in a day are well below the radar of our consciousness.
Okay, so why is it so hard for us to make up our minds these days?
Well, we've been in jail for 2 years, right? Like this is a really difficult thing. And it's an ongoing thing for us. And decision-making it's a very cognitive process. Like even when it's happening below our level of awareness and when we're really into a bigger decision, it's a very mental process. So when we're feeling what I call emotionally fit, or when we're emotionally fit, meaning we're feeling calm, well-adjusted, we feel, it doesn't mean everything's perfect in your life, it means that you're feeling confident and healthy and your mental health is in check, then we can confidently make decisions and even, be okay with the consequences of those decisions, if they turn out the way we want or not. But when we're distressed and not at our best and not emotionally fit, which more and more and more of us, as we know, are, that's one of the first signs that our mental health might be suffering, is all of a sudden really small decisions can become really difficult, like choosing a flavor of ice cream or, picking what you want to wear, which should be relatively simple decisions. When these become really hard, it can be really immobilizing, and it's sort of a form of anxiety. And it's our body's way of telling us, like, we're stressed out, like we're not doing very well right now.
Yeah, I'm nodding along like crazy because I've felt it, and I think so many of our viewers have felt it. And the pandemic is just the elephant that keeps on growing. Talk to us a little bit about COVID fatigue.
I know, right? It's tough, and it's everyone at this point, even the most resilient among us, is experiencing some form of COVID fatigue right now, and or cognitive fatigue, mental fatigue. And I define this as basically our brain's inability to rely on the information that we're presented with around us in our environment and our culture, and our inability to reasonably predict the near future. Mm-hmm. And we already had trouble with that before the pandemic. Technology already was making it really difficult for us to all of a sudden predict 5 years out. What are things going to look like 2 years out? Now we're not even sure 2 months out. And this is really very taxing on us mentally and our decision-making process. This frontal part of the brain, which is called the frontal lobe, is responsible for higher level decision making. And when we lack sleep, when we're feeling distressed, it's compromised. And so it just doesn't function well.
If we are trying to make bigger, major decisions, because we have to, what should we keep in mind?
We definitely don't want to make big decisions. And many of us are making bigger decisions now because That's one thing that this pandemic has created is an opportunity for us all to reevaluate things. And many people are really looking at life and making bigger decisions. But if you feel anxious, if you're really stressed out, if you're going through a really difficult time or an emotional time, it's best to try and hold off on those bigger decisions. It's also best to not rush them. Don't make bigger decisions when you're really tired, as I mentioned, or like late at night. Better to sleep on things, wake up in the morning. Um, and also, automating decision making is really good. Like, that's actually a real upside of technology. So I know, like, when I go online shopping for groceries, the next time I go, it's been auto populating everything I bought before, which is fantastic because, like, it's something I don't need or want to spend my brain energy on. So using tricks and things like that.
I love those tips. And you also have another good one, which is we need to prioritize our decisions as well. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, so the amount of time that we spend in making our decisions should be proportionate to the gravity of that decision. So if we're making major ones like a life partnership or relationship or a job or a place to live, then we want to take the time that's necessary versus, again, if we're choosing, a flavor of ice cream or if we're choosing what to order at a restaurant. I also want to use, I think, for bigger decisions, what I like to call a consigliere, which is really just a trusted person, even a professional, to help engage you in a process of making really bigger decisions. I think that can be really helpful. And just pacing ourselves. It's really important to not allow ourselves to be swallowed up by the amount of decisions that we're making or get sort of sucked into that vortex where we feel like we can't, like we're being torn. And I know that this, my personal experience as a parent and being at home during this pandemic for a lot of it, there have been a great many more decisions and switching and kind of having to shift my focus. So it's important to step back when that happens, breathe, reset, and then step back in and take your decisions one at a time.
Great advice. Perspective is everything. I find I'm a super decisive person, but when I start getting wishy-washy, it means my mental health is being loaded on, which is exactly what you said. And so I find it helps to take just the pressure off. Like, it's not do or die. So the decision you make, it's not etched in stone. It's okay. Just go for one instead of making the right one all the time. Any decision you make will be fine in the moment, or take the night to sleep on it, as you said. Natasha, thank you so much. Great information for our viewers.
Thanks so much for having me.